This is One-on-One. You're looking at Katie Willse, Director of Community Initiatives at the National Summer Learning Association, otherwise known as NSLA. Good to see you, Katie.
Thanks for having me.
What exactly is the National Summer Learning Association?
We are an national intermediate organization based in Baltimore, Maryland, and we're focusing on all things summer. So there's some really compelling information and research that looks at what happens in the summer months if kids aren't engaged in learning, and I think you and Dan were talking about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, Neil of Prudential.
Yeah, and so
what's the summer slide?
Summer slide, it's if kids are not engaged in activities that are supporting their academic or kind of youth development, they lose skills. They lose the academic learning that they had in the school year, and they go back to a new school year kind of behind where they were when they finished the year before.
Devil's advocate, I mean, we have school-age children, and we worry about that as well, but then I say, you know what? Maybe it's good to get away from all the academics. Yeah. It's just it's good for them to not have the daily homework grind and clear their head. Then they get back in September.
Right.
Now they're in a suburban, pretty wealthy, affluent school district.
Sure.
Is it different in an urban, struggling school district, and for urban kids, is it different or disproportionately more of a challenge?
Yeah, it can be. I think there's some really compelling research that looks at the difference between the effect of kind of the summer months off in comparison of low-income youth, and then looking at like their middle and higher income peers.
What's the difference?
You're looking at 2 to 3 months in a loss of reading skill and literacy development, and so kids are going back 2 to 3 months behind their peers, and you see this cumulative effect over years. So if you're tracking kids over their elementary school years, if a young person is not engaged in anything over the summer months, you can see a 2.5 grade level difference in reading by the end of 5th grade.
Back up. End of 5th grade.
End of 5th grade.
2.5 grade levels?
Yep. Yeah, so you're talking about some students who are reading at maybe like a 2nd or 3rd grade reading level, and then their peers who are kind of on track reading at a 5th grade reading level.
Okay, you don't deal with it. Now all of a sudden this young person, 17 years old, attempting to go to college.
Right.
What happens?
Well, if you extend kind of that research out, it shows by 9th grade you can see a 6.5-year difference between students who don't complete high school. So you're looking at ones who are just struggling year after year, and there's a high correlation between students who are struggling in sort of their literacy and those that aren't completing high school, because we know that it's the most fundamental skill to being successful, especially when you get into the higher grades. Everything is based around your reading and comprehension.
So your organization is dealing with this head on?
Yeah, so
How?
we're looking at it from many angles. So our organization, we work kind of at a policy level, working at federal all the way to the local level, talking about what kind of supportive policies and funds can be out there so that programs can be addressing this issue.
Excuse me for interrupting, is that where the Summer Learning Initiative with the Prudential Foundation comes in?
Yeah, so we've been working with Prudential for probably 6 years now. As you know, they fund a significant number of programs in Newark and kind of the greater Newark community, and they kind of heard about the importance of summer, how critical it is, and wanted to get that information out to their programs to help them really think intentionally about, okay, we've got these kids at a critical time. We want to create a safe place, but we also want to create a place that's supporting their learning and development. And so we've been able to come in and do training and kind of workshops with program providers, so with nonprofits, faith-based communities, those folks that have the kids with them in the summer months. We want them to understand the power that they have to really transform their lives, right? If we know that the summer is so critical, especially in the elementary school years, we want them to really understand that research and also understand the characteristics of quality programs. Not all summer programs can be impactful or effective, and there's a lot of standards that if a program understands kind of how to set intentional learning goals, how to have objectives for what kids are learning, that they can really make a difference and move the needle.
But Katie, I'm curious, what makes a difference between a successful summer learning initiative and one that is a dud? Meaning, I think to myself, it's got to be tough with any young person any time of the year, but as the weather gets warmer, as it gets really hot in the summer and other kids are doing other things outside and a school may or may not have air conditioning, I don't know.
Right.
It's got to be really tough.
Well, I think to your point about that kids need a break,
Yeah.
we definitely agree with that. And so when we look at summer learning programs, we want to see something that has, we call it a unique program culture, something that makes the program.
A unique program culture.
Yeah, something that makes the program feel different than what's happening in the school year. And so we want to see things that are hands-on,
For example?
project-based learning. You know, there's a great program at UMDMJ called the SMART program that's looking at increasing students' interest and skills in kind of science and medicine with the hope that they pursue those careers later in life. And so they're studying genetics, and they're studying, you know, respiratory and heart disease, and they're doing labs, and they're going out and they're studying this, and then they're applying it. There's a lot of great programs that are addressing the need for kind of work readiness and workforce development, and they're providing internships to high school students. So kids are involved in a training workshop once a week where they're kind of learning about professional development, and then they're going out and they're getting an opportunity to work in a trade or a field that they're interested in and have that experience hands-on.
But a young person can't just walk in and say, I want to sign up. What strikes me here is that it's done through the nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
It's done through the community-based organizations, the faith-based organizations. That really requires that a parent and or a child, but some parent, some adult, has to steer that kid to the Boys and Girls Clubs, to the local church, to the not-for-profit organization that has an after-school program. How does a kid navigate that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's amazing, especially working with the programs that I've had the opportunity to work with here in Newark.
Are they the ones that are supposed to reach out and find these kids?
I think you see both. So parent engagement is so important. So it's one of the most important things that a program can do is build that relationship with the parent or the caretaker and help them really understand how important it is for their child to be engaged in these kinds of programs in the summer and the after-school years. And I think the school has that same responsibility. I think especially when children are young, you need the parents to kind of push them in that direction. But if they're connected to a program or they have a mentor who supports them, I think there's a lot of people that can kind of steer them in that direction. But we promote the importance of bringing parents into this dialogue about summer learning and helping them to really understand how important, you know, those months are.
I got to ask you something before I let you out of here. How'd you get into this whole thing? What's your story?
Yeah, I come from a provider background, so
a provider background.
So
what does that mean?
Folks that have been working, you know, with kids. So I come from a background of developing and running youth programs. I've had a chance to work in a couple different states, and our organization is based in Baltimore, so I moved to Baltimore and I learned about the association. And I thought, how cool to kind of take all the years of experience I've had working with youth and developing programs and
Baltimore's a tough town.
Yeah, I think, you know,
not too dissimilar from Newark.
I was going to say there's some similar characteristics and similar need, but I think, you know, it's been a great experience for me to kind of share what I know from my summer learning experiences, but also to learn from all these programs. The association has this great opportunity to meet phenomenal programs around the country, learn what they're doing, and try and distill that to other communities so that you can make a connection both between programs locally as well as nationally.
Finally, the greatest reward you get out of all this?
I think just knowing that there's kids who have the opportunity to be safe and to be learning new things, and you know, I get to go out and visit programs in the summer months.
You
pretty much I'm on the road. Yeah, I get a chance to go out.
You see these kids having their lives transformed.
Absolutely, and standing up and delivering presentations on things that they've learned over the summer, and hearing them be excited about identifying a field that they want to pursue. I mean, the summer is the time to kind of make those dreams become true for them. Even when they're only 7, they can start exploring these kind of new interests. And you just see them speak with such passion and conviction, knowing that they're going to be successful, that this is a reality for them, I think makes it all worth it.
I know you probably know this, but it's one of the reasons why we started a program called Stand and Deliver. 14 years we've been doing it now.
Oh, wow.
That we're working with Dan and the folks at the Prudential Foundation to see these kids stand and deliver. That's why it's called that. There's nothing like it.
Really isn't.
We're really proud of them.
Yeah.
And they're going to be great leaders one day.
Yeah.
Katie Willse, all the way up from Baltimore.
Thanks for having me.
Director of Community Initiatives, National Summer Learning Association. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you doing important work.
Thank you.
Stay with us one-on-one. We'll be right back after this. Thank you, Katie.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Prudential Foundation, the Merck Company Foundation, the Verizon Foundation, the TD Charitable Foundation, PSE&G, the Newark Public Schools, and by the Terrell Fund. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and northjersey.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.